Well, keep in mind that the drop from about 14 million to 3.5, that's a $10 million difference. At a 40% tax rate, that's $4 million of additional tax. And if you've got a married couple, it's 8 million. And that doesn't take into account generation skipping, which is going to add another, 50% to the cost of things. So instead of having an erosion of 8 million, you're probably going to have an erosion of 12 million just through the grandchildren's generation. There's a couple of things to keep in mind. In past measures to have changes in the tax law, like the Trump ones in 2017, they only lasted for 10 years. That's because there's something called the Byrd Rule, where any senator can say, I don't like this, and unless they get 60% of the vote, it means that anything that reduced the receipts for the federal government has to go away in 10 years. That's not true if you have a tax increase. It's only where you have a tax decrease that that rule kicks in. So that's something to keep in mind. Also keep in mind that although, the Senate can filibuster things, they can't filibuster the Budget Reconciliation Act. That only takes 51 votes. So if the Democrats get 51 Senate seats, they can get something through, and there can be no objection because it's part of the Budget Reconciliation Act.
This is StateView software. You can available for purchase. StateView.link is the website that you can go to, and we can pass out information as handouts to the attendees if they're interested in the software. Yep. So we put in the client information here. John and Sally Smith. They have $50 million of investment assets in a $2 million home. Their assets are growing at 7% annually. They are going to be saving $1 million a year, adding to that portfolio for the next 5 years until they reach age 70. And at that point, they're both going to retire and spend $1 million a year. So not an uncommon situation at this point in time. So what we're going to take a look at first is this would be their client situation with the first death occurring in 20 years and the second death occurring in 30 years. And I think to kind of show the impact of what this proposed plan might do is if we look at this today, and let's say the estate tax exemption stays exactly the same. It's at the 13.6 million amount, growing with inflation. The Republicans win the election and decide to extend the sunset provision on the exemption amount so that it will not decrease in 2026 like it's scheduled to do. Under a fairly standard revocable trust estate plan, they're going to owe $51 million in estate tax, a very large number. But if the exemption drops in half in 2026 like it's scheduled to do, that number goes up to 66 million, and the amount passed to their beneficiaries decreases. If the Harris plan comes into existence,
and Brandon,
that number goes up even higher.
Yeah, hold on. Let's.
Doesn't take into account there could be a estate tax as well.
That is correct. Yeah, we can increase the estate tax rate if we need to account for the state tax. So this could bump up to 48% or whatever the effective rate would be if you include a state estate tax as well. But good point, Jonathan. A lot of states do have a separate state estate tax that could apply at different exemption amounts than the federal exemption. Yeah.
So Brandon, just show us one more time. No present, no reduction, half reduction.
Yeah, so no reduction. 152 million would pass to the beneficiaries with the $51 million estate tax bill. A half reduction, 137 goes to the beneficiaries with a $66 million estate tax bill. And then if the Harris plan were to pass with a $3.5 million exemption, growing with inflation for 30 years, that only 6 million could fund into the bypass trust, and the estate tax would be 74 with only 130 going to the beneficiaries. So one of the things too that we kind of showed this client is what if we used our exemption, the full 13.6 now before it might be taken away. And so if we make a large gift to a trust, say we put these numbers aren't exactly round, but if we put $19.4 million into the trust and discount that at a 30% discount rate so that the taxable value of this gift is around 13.6 million using the full exemption amount. You can see the difference that that makes by taking advantage of that large gift when we have it. You know, now 160 million are going to the beneficiaries as compared to only 92. So one other thing that, you know, might potentially be taken away with a Harris plan is our installment sell to a grantor trust. If we can no longer have grantor trust, then we can't sell assets tax free under, you know, 85-13 revenue ruling to let appreciation of those assets, you know, kind of inure to the benefit of the next generation under grantor trust. So here, just kind of showing a separate illustration. If we can actually zero out the estate tax with an installment sale, we wouldn't even need a charitable lead annuity trust by putting about $28 million into an LLC and discounting that down. You know, with discounts are still available today, and the sale would be at around 19.6 million. It would pay an interest rate on the promissory note at 4.32%, and since our assets are growing at 7%, that difference is then building up in the grantor trust, not to mention that the grantor is paying the income tax on behalf of that trust, further reducing the grantor's estate. So while this is available, you know, it's something that could be planned for, and we could eliminate the estate tax problem for a $50 million client with just a gift using the exemption and a, you know, $20 million roughly installment sell. And you can see the amount going to the beneficiaries, you know, just increases even more. From our original plan, it was 92 million under a 3.5 exemption amount. But if we take advantage of things today and do these plans and techniques, then we can eliminate the estate tax even with a $3.5 million exemption amount. So I think it just stresses the importance of, you know, planning while we can. But then, you know, as I'll show in some other illustrations, we don't want to over plan either. So we have to keep in mind potential over planning for smaller estates that aren't at $50 million.
You go to estateview.info. So there's the website. And if you're an Interactive Legal member, you click there on Interactive Legal, and there's a special offer for you. And then if you scroll down, there's also a video library. And the video library covers a lot of different planning techniques that you can watch. Whether you use the software or not, the video library takes you through the mathematical mechanics.
Kind of to show you how I did these, right? So it first comes up and you have your input screens and you just put in these basic inputs. You know, how much are you spending? How much do you have? What's your growth rate? You know, what's your year one gift? And then you click to see results and it comes out for you there.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry has worked a lot on this software to keep it as simple as possible. So that's why clients who don't know anything about law or tax, but understand a spreadsheet, are able to learn about the estate tax and manipulate these models. And we've got, you know, pretty good rudders and pretty good safeguards to keep you out of trouble, but you do have to understand the techniques to use them.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all very much. It's time for us to go, and good hunting with your clients.